3D solid forms. Some people say shapes, but form more accurately depicts something that is three-dimensional, something that you can hold. When we look closely at what artists have put together to show shading, we can copy it too. You can practice using different pressures to do dark value and light value, and you can learn about how to expect that a shape will look when it is shaded correctly. When you're drawing something from real life, it doesn't always look this clean and this clear or with these angles, but this is a great example of a sheet to study and look closely at to show how value changes across each surface of a 3D form. Let's practice drawing 3D forms. I start with dots. One dot on the left and one dot on the right. This gives you a target. I'm going to draw a cone, so there will be another dot on top. So you have a triangle of dots. Between the two dots, practice making a sketchy oval. And then from the top dot, practice sketching down a straight-ish line. That is basically a transparent cone. Because we're going to 3D shade on this, we're going to make it solid by erasing the parts that we normally wouldn't see through on a solid. Then we're going to darken the lines that you like. You might want to try and use a straight edge or try it by hand. Sometimes a hand-drawn shape looks better than one that's been done with rulers. So I'm darkening the side lines and then just the front of the cone. I will go back in and erase the part of the cone edge that I shouldn't normally see if it's solid, and I'll be able to shade that in a bit. Next, let's try something very similar, a cylinder. For a cylinder, you're going to make the top and bottom the same. So 2 dots and 2 dots directly across and below and above each other. You're going to practice making sketchy ovals between the 2 dots. And then you're going to practice making straight lines from the upper dots to the lower dots. When you're ready and like some of your lines, you can trace over them. You can use a ruler. Remember, you're only doing the lower of the bottom cylinder edge, but then you're going to do the upper of the upper cylinder edge. That one will be ready to shade later. The next thing I'm going to do is very similar to a cylinder, but it is going to have a square top and bottom. So I'm doing my sets of dots, but then I'm going to do an upper and lower set of dots to make diamond shapes. I'm going to connect those dots above and below, and you'll see that this creates angles that are the same on the top of the cube and the bottom of the cube. Those straight lines down, and then you can get a marker and darken the edges, doing the full 4 edges on top and each line going down, but then doing a front lower part only on a solid cube, and erase those lines, those edges we wouldn't see in a solid cube. There I am erasing on the cylinder also. So you can do this relatively cubic shape when you're doing any size rectangular prism by moving those 2 diamonds apart. Next, I'm going to do a square pyramid. That means the base is like a square, and then it will connect up top to look like a pyramid. So I'm doing the diamond shape with the 4 dots on the bottom, and then a dot way up high so that I can connect it down to the 3 dots below. And technically the fourth dot below is just being overlapped. I only darken the bottom edge of the bottom, and then I do all of those lines that are coming out of the top dot. Erase the part that shouldn't be seen when it's solid. So after you do some practice, you're going to create these shapes on colored paper. When you're practicing early on, your shapes will look a little bit wonky, and you can always get tips on how to straighten them out. We're going to practice using different pressures to create a gradient around your round shapes, like your cylinder, your cone, and your sphere. On one side of a cylinder, it'll be very, very dark, and on the other side, it will be very light or white. You have to slowly adjust your pressure to make sure that it is very subtle and slowly changes from dark to light. You can always go back in and darken your darks to be more dynamic and bold. Layers of graphite or colored pencil will help make it look like there's a shadow on your shape. To do this shading, I'm just referencing a different paper, or you might remember how to do these solid parts with a solid value. So a cube or a rectangular prism or a square pyramid will have a solid value on each face. So I'm trying to keep that tone all the same. You can also see that I took a moment to fix my wonky cube because I will be cutting these out, and I was able to match the top. So to create our final artwork, I have a black piece of construction paper. I am gonna glue on the back of a white piece. I'm always making a sticker with what I'm gonna stick down onto another paper, and I'm gonna attach it to the bottom. This art we're making today follows a bunch of rules that people sometimes use in art to make a good composition. This piece of white is exactly a third of the way up the black paper. Next, I'm going to play with my cutout shapes and make an impossible stack. I'm going to try and make it so that the light is coming from the same direction on all of my shapes. So my light here is coming from the upper left. You can do it differently. You can have the light maybe coming from the bottom of your art, since the table is white here. Once you have a stack that you love, you're going to slowly glue down the pieces starting at the bottom. Glue the whole edge and inside of these small pieces so they are working like a sticker. And place it one at a time while you have them laying where you like. The glue will stay sticky for a little bit so you can move right away, but once you do a lot of pressing down, it'll be hard to move your pieces, so make sure you take your time. Any small edges that are still sticking up, you can reach the glue under just like that so that your whole artwork is very, very flat. Here we go, my impossible stack. And then I'm just going to do a soft shadow at the bottom since my cylinder is being lit from above. Just softly creating a spot on the table, more so on the shaded side, to look like it's sitting on the table. Have fun.